Ladies, let me tell you something real. When a man ignores you, it's not just silence you're hearing, it's communication. And trust me, silence from a man says more than words ever will. Women always ask me, Steve, why is he not calling? Why is he acting distant? Well, here's the truth. A man's silence is his loudest answer. He may not say it out loud, but he's speaking volumes. When a man ignores you, it can stir up all kinds of emotions, confusion, hurt, frustration, even anger. You start playing it over and over in your head, trying to figure out what went wrong, what you said, what you did, and where the vibe changed. One minute he was calling, texting, wanting to spend time with you, and the next he's cold, distant, and silent. That silence, that's not just absence, it's a message. And that message might not come with words, but it carries a very clear meaning. A man may not say anything, but in that quiet, he's revealing exactly what he thinks, what he feels, and where he stands with you. Now, a lot of women get caught in the loop of overthinking when a man starts ignoring them. You think maybe he's stressed, maybe he's got work stuff going on, maybe he's dealing with something personal. It's a fair thought, but here's where the line gets drawn. If a man cares about you, if you matter to him, he's not going to go completely silent on you without explanation. Even if he's going through something, he's going to find a way to say, hey, I just need a little time. I got some stuff I'm dealing with. Because a man who values you respects your time, your heart, and your peace of mind. So when he ignores you, what is he really thinking? First, he might be pulling back because he wants space. And not just space to breathe, but space to assess how invested he actually is in this relationship. See, a man knows when a woman is emotionally all in. He can feel when you're starting to take him seriously. And sometimes that triggers a reaction in him, not because you did something wrong, but because he's not sure if he's ready to meet you on that level. Instead of telling you he's unsure, he backs off, because that's easier than facing the conversation. It's immature, but it's real. He steps back, disappears into that silence, hoping time will either numb the connection or make you chase him. Another reason a man ignores a woman is because he wants to see how much control he has. Yeah, it sounds messed up, but some men do this to test how far they can push. They want to see if you'll double text, call, beg, ask what's wrong, and when you do, it feeds their ego. It tells them she'll come after me no matter how I treat her. That gives them power. But here's the trick. You take that power back when you stop reacting. When you stop reaching out to someone who is intentionally ignoring you, you shift the dynamic. Now you're the one in control. You're no longer the woman who tolerates being played with. You're the woman who says, if you go silent, I go absent. Now, let's not ignore the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes when a man starts ignoring you, it's because there's someone else. That's the part nobody likes to say out loud, but it happens. If his time, energy, and attention suddenly vanish, it's not just because he's tired or overwhelmed. It's because he's redirecting that energy somewhere else. Men are creatures of focus. If he's not focused on you anymore, he's likely focused on something or someone else. And again, that doesn't require a dramatic breakup. His silence does the job. He just slowly disappears, hoping you'll get the hint without him having to say a word. That's cowardly, but common. Sometimes, though, it's even more subtle than that. He might not be entertaining someone else, but he's unsure if you're the one he wants to invest in long term. He liked the fun, the attention, the connection, but now that things are getting deeper, he's questioning it. And instead of coming to you with those doubts, he retreats because confronting a woman who's invested is uncomfortable. Men don't like confrontation, especially emotional confrontation, so they choose the easy way out, silence. But here's the part every woman needs to hear. Your worth is not determined by a man's attention. If he chooses to ignore you, that says everything about him and nothing about you. Don't let his silence make you question your value. Don't start rewriting your personality, shrinking yourself, trying to fix something that isn't even broken. You're not the problem. His lack of maturity, his confusion, his emotional distance. That's his burden, not yours. So what do you do when a man ignores you? You match his energy, not to be petty, but to protect your peace. If he pulls back, don't lean in harder. If he goes silent, don't turn up the volume. Let him have the space he clearly wants, and use that space for yourself. Use that time to check in with you. Ask yourself, is this the kind of love I want? Is this what I deserve? Is this the behavior I should accept? Because once a man realizes you're not begging for his time, he gets a reality check. Either he steps up or he stays gone. Either way, you win. You also need to remember this: real love shows up consistently. A man who's serious about you doesn't disappear. He doesn't go days without talking to you, leaving you wondering what happened. He's there. He calls, he texts, he checks in, not because he has to, but because he wants to. So if you find yourself constantly questioning where you stand, constantly feeling anxious over his silence, constantly trying to decode mixed signals, that's not love. That's emotional chaos. And you weren't built for chaos. You were built for clarity, peace, and mutual effort. The moment you stop accepting less is the moment you make room for more. Stop explaining your value to someone who's showing you they don't see it. Stop chasing a man who's running away. Let him go. Let the silence speak for itself. And in that quiet, you'll find your own strength. You'll realize that you don't need someone who ignores you to feel wanted. You need someone who chooses you without hesitation. And if that man can't see your worth, trust me, someone else will. When a man ignores you, it does something to your spirit. It can make you second guess everything you thought was real. One day he's engaged, laughing, showing interest, and the next he's distant, cold, unavailable, no explanation, no warning, just silence. That silence is deafening because it creates a storm inside your head. You start asking yourself if you said too much, if you were too available, if you didn't say enough, if you showed him you cared too soon. But the truth is, it's not about what you did wrong. It's about what he's thinking and how he's choosing to deal with it. A man ignoring a woman doesn't always mean he stopped caring. Sometimes it means he's overwhelmed by feelings he doesn't know how to process. Men are wired differently when it comes to emotions. A woman leans in when she feels deeply. A man often pulls back. For him, love is a risk. It's exposure. And for some men, emotional vulnerability feels like weakness. So instead of saying, I'm scared, or I don't know what to do with these feelings, they go silent. They disappear into that cave, hoping time or space will help them sort it out. The problem is, while he's sitting with confusion, you're sitting with anxiety. While he's figuring things out, you're overanalyzing every move. Other times, it's not confusion that causes his silence, it's calculation. Some men intentionally ignore a woman to see what she'll do. It's a test. They want to see if you'll chase. They want to know if they still have that power. The truth is, a man who feels like he has you completely might stop putting in the same effort. He might assume you'll always be there. So he steps back. Not because he's lost interest, but because he wants to feel the thrill of you coming to get him. But here's the thing. That's a manipulation in disguise. That's emotional control. And if you feed into it, you start a pattern that only benefits him. You teach him that silence earns him attention. You show him that the more he withdraws, the more you give. And then there's the situation that's even harder to face when a man ignores you because he's done, but he doesn't have the courage to say it out loud. He may not want a dramatic ending. He may not want to be the bad guy. So he uses silence as his exit strategy. He fades out of your life, hoping you'll eventually get tired and walk away so he doesn't have to be the one to end it. That's the kind of man who chooses comfort over honesty. And the sad part is he doesn't realize that silence hurts more than the truth ever could. Now let's get even more honest. Sometimes the reason he ignores you is because there's someone else taking up space in his life. He might not admit it, but if he suddenly stops calling, stops texting, stops checking in, it's likely because his attention has shifted. Men aren't good multitaskers when it comes to relationships. If he's into someone new, you'll feel it. His energy changes. His availability drops. He stops making you feel special. That doesn't mean you're not enough. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It just means he made a different choice. And the moment a man chooses someone else, your only job is to choose yourself. The worst thing you can do in this situation is start justifying his behavior. The more you explain away the silence, the deeper you fall into the trap. You say things like, he's probably busy, or he needs space, or maybe he's just not a phone person. But deep down, you know. You feel the shift. You sense the distance. You recognize the difference between a man who's genuinely busy and a man who's purposely avoiding you. One sends you reassurance, the other sends you confusion. One checks in when he can, the other disappears altogether. A man who's serious about you won't let you feel ignored, even when life gets busy, even when he's overwhelmed, even when he needs space. He communicates that. He doesn't just vanish. He tells you, I'm going through something, but I still care. That's what grown men do. They don't ghost, they don't play games, and they don't use silence as a weapon. They show up. And if he's not showing up for you, then he's showing you exactly where you stand in his life. Now, it's not your job to chase clarity from someone who's choosing confusion. It's not your responsibility to fill in the blanks when he refuses to speak. If he's ignoring you, step back. Let him have that silence. Don't text him over and over. Don't check his social media to see if he's online. Don't ask mutual friends about him. That only keeps you emotionally tied to someone who's already walking away. Instead, redirect your focus. Pour that energy back into yourself. Call your friends. Pick up your passions. Get back into your routine. The more you feed your own soul, the less you'll crave his attention. You have to know when to stop showing up for someone who's not showing up for you. Love is not supposed to leave you questioning your worth. Love doesn't look like silence, doesn't look like disappearing acts. It doesn't feel like being forgotten. Love feels like being seen, being heard, being valued. And the man who truly sees you, who truly wants you, isn't going to leave you hanging. He's going to want to be part of your world every day, not just when it's convenient. So when a man ignores you, instead of taking it as a reason to try harder, take it as a reason to step back. Let his silence speak. Let it tell you everything his words never did. And remember, someone else's inability to recognize your worth has nothing to do with your value. A man who knows what he wants won't leave you confused. He won't make you feel like a question mark. He'll come with certainty. Until then, don't lower your standards to match someone else's inconsistency. Silence is loud. Pay attention to what it's saying. And let that be your answer. When a man ignores you, it's one of the most confusing and painful experiences to go through, especially if things were going well, or at least you thought they were. You start analyzing every moment, every text, every word exchanged, trying to figure out where the switch flipped. One moment he was attentive, laughing with you, reaching out, making plans. Then, like a light switch, something shifts. The texts slow down, the calls stop, the energy changes, and suddenly you're the only one reaching out, the only one trying. It feels like being left in the dark without any explanation, and that silence is loud. When a man ignores you, it's often not random. Something is happening on his end, whether it's confusion, emotional immaturity, selfishness, or intentional game playing. But regardless of what it is, you have to understand this. No man who truly values you is going to go ghost and think that's acceptable. Men are simple in one key way. If they want you, they will act like it. If they don't, they start backing off. And when that starts to happen, a lot of women panic and start doing more texting, more calling, more chasing, but that only pushes him further away because now the energy is off balance. You're doing all the work while he's doing nothing. Sometimes a man ignores you because he doesn't know how to communicate his truth. Maybe he's not feeling it anymore, but he doesn't want to be the one to say it. He doesn't want the confrontation or the tears. So instead of dealing with it like a man, he pulls back, hoping you'll get the hint. That's emotional cowardice, plain and simple. And while it hurts, you need to see it for what it is. A man showing you who he really is when things get uncomfortable. Other times, he's not ignoring you because he's unsure. He's ignoring you because he thinks he already has you. In his mind, he believes you're already emotionally hooked, so he starts to put in less effort, thinking you'll still be there, waiting, checking in, trying to fix things. That's where a lot of women lose themselves, trying to prove their worth to a man who stopped trying. When you feel yourself being ignored, don't turn up your presence. Turn up your standards. Let him feel what it's like to miss you. Let him sit in that silence he created. There are men who use ignoring as a tactic of control. They know it creates anxiety. They know it makes you question yourself. They know silence can make you more desperate for their attention. So they withhold it. They create emotional starvation just to make you crave little crumbs of affection. That's toxic behavior, and the more you feed into it, the more power you give away. You start lowering your boundaries, accepting less, making excuses for him. But ask yourself, what would you tell your best friend if she was being treated that way? You'd probably tell her to walk away. You'd probably tell her she deserves more. So, why don't you tell yourself that? Sometimes the silence is because he's dealing with his own personal issues, stress, work, mental health. And in some cases, he might pull away, not because he wants to hurt you, but because he doesn't know how to handle support or vulnerability. That might sound understandable, but even then, a man who respects you will at least communicate. A simple, I need some space to handle a few things, but it's not about you goes a long way. If he can't even say that, then you have to wonder what kind of emotional maturity he really has. A man ignoring you should not be the trigger for you to try harder. It should be the reason you pause and reflect. If someone goes silent, they are showing you how they operate under pressure, under confusion, under emotional stress. Do you want to build something real with someone who disappears when things get complicated? Or do you want a man who's present even when things aren't perfect? You deserve clarity. You deserve consistency. You deserve communication. These are the bare minimum requirements in any healthy connection. If a man cannot meet those, you're not being too emotional or too demanding by stepping away. You're being smart. Love should not feel like punishment. Attention should not feel like a reward you have to earn. Instead of drowning in confusion, shift your energy, pull back, stop trying to force conversation with someone who's gone quiet. Stop checking for signs, checking for texts, overthinking every little detail. Let his silence speak for itself. Because while he's quiet, while he's distant, while he's unsure, there's a woman out there waiting to walk into your life who's loud about her love, intentional with her time, and clear about her intention. And if a man really wants you, he's not going to risk losing you with silence. He's going to make sure you know exactly where you stand. When a man begins to ignore you, it can feel like a gut punch, sharp, confusing, and cold. One moment you're sharing laughs, maybe even dreams, and the next there's a cold wall of silence. That sudden shift doesn't just hurt your heart, it shakes your confidence. You begin wondering if you were too much, too available, too emotional. You replay every interaction, every message, trying to spot what you missed. But here's what needs to be said. His silence is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of his choices. Some men ignore women not because they're done, but because they don't know how to be honest. He may be losing interest, feeling uncertain, or just emotionally immature. Instead of stepping up and communicating what's really going on, he steps back. He lets the silence carry the weight of his indecision. That avoidance may protect him from the discomfort of a hard conversation, but it leaves you with the burden of unanswered questions. That's not fair to you. You deserve clarity, not confusion. But the truth is, if a man can't give you basic communication, then what else is he going to avoid when things get tough? In some cases, a man ignores you to test your boundaries. He wants to see how far you'll go to keep his attention. He wants to see if you'll tolerate his inconsistency, if you'll beg, chase, double text. And when you do, he feels powerful. Your effort feeds his ego. It tells him he doesn't have to try because you'll do the emotional lifting for both of you. That's not love. That's control. You don't chase someone who's showing you they don't care enough to stay present. You pause, you pull back, you remind yourself that silence is not something you should have to fight your way through. There are times when a man ignores you simply because he knows you care more than he does. And that's exactly the dynamic he wants. It's easier for him to get what he wants, your attention, your affection, your time, without having to give anything meaningful in return. He benefits from you being emotionally invested while he remains emotionally absent. You think you're building something real, but he's just passing time. That's why it's so important not to confuse consistency with affection. Just because he shows up sometimes doesn't mean he's truly present. It's also possible he's ignoring you because there's someone else. This is the harshest truth, but often the most accurate. If he used to text you daily, call you before bed, make plans for the weekend, and now you hear from him once every few days with no real effort, it's not an accident. Men don't just get busy and forget about someone they value. If his energy has shifted that drastically, there's a reason, and that reason might be another woman who's now occupying the space you used to hold. Don't lie to yourself to protect your feelings. Don't shrink your instincts. If it feels off, it usually is. But even when a man is going through something tough, family problems, job stress, emotional struggles, a man who respects you will still try to stay connected. He'll say, I'm dealing with something, but I didn't want to leave you in the dark. He'll communicate, even if it's not perfectly. Silence is not how someone who cares operates. No matter what he's going through, he knows that ignoring you completely is not only hurtful, it's disrespectful. And still, despite all this, some women continue to wait. They sit in that silence, hoping for a sign, hoping for a change. They keep checking their phones, rereading old messages, wondering what happened to the man who used to care. But the longer you wait for a man to stop ignoring you, the more you forget how to hear your own voice. The more you ignore your own intuition. You deserve someone who's emotionally available, not someone who disappears when things get real. You teach people how to treat you by how you respond to their behavior. If he ignores you and you reward that silence with more effort, you're telling him this is acceptable. But if he ignores you and you respond with silence of your own, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, you send a different message. You say, I'm not someone you can play quiet games with. You show him that your time, your energy, your heart are not things he can pick up and put down when it suits him. When a man ignores you, don't sit in that space trying to solve a puzzle he created. Use that time to center yourself. Ask the hard questions. Ask yourself why you're holding on to someone who's showing you they're not holding on to you. Emotional clarity comes when you stop chasing closure from someone who gave you silence. You don't need to beg for answers. His behavior is your answer. And once you recognize that, you can start choosing peace over chaos, truth over false hope, and your own healing over someone else's confusion.